Hello, Royal High School Woodshop, it's Mr. Sorensen. And today we are going to take a look at the table saw, one of the most dangerous tools in the woodshop. And I'm going to talk us through one of the most difficult processes in woodworking as well. When we look at posters, when we look at articles, this is one of the tools where a lot of people will get injured. And today we're going to take a look at a process, the 7 steps of cutting a board, or the 7 steps of ripping a board, that really can help us cut safely and accurately through the table saw every single time. And it gives us a way to minimize any potential problems that we could experience on the table saw. Now, this is not my, these are not my 7 steps. These are actually 7 steps that were perfected by Cerritos College down in Norwalk, California. I'm a product of that college. I went there, I took a class, and I'm just bringing back some really great information that I learned there and am presenting to you. Now, while we can never really guarantee people's safety, that they can't get hurt, these 7 steps really go a long way in helping eliminate lots of the potential problems that can be caused when I do something incorrectly on a table saw. One of the overarching principles that we need to keep in mind as we run through the 7 steps of ripping a board on a table saw is the concept that I have posted here on this sign that overlooks the island where the table saws are in the classroom. And that is focus on the fence. This is a key issue. This is not one of the 7 steps, but it is really important that through the whole of the 7 steps, my attention, my eyesight stays watching the fence to make sure the board stays tight to the fence through the whole cut. So that tends to go against our inclination. What we want to do is look at the blade. We want to look at our hands and make sure our hands are not going into the blade. However, that creates a problem. We have, through the 7 steps, a very effective way at keeping our hands out of the blade. So one of those is we're going to use a really good tall push stick that's going to help us to get the board through the cut. We're also going to have a guard covering up most of the blade. So the chance of my hand getting into the blade just by pushing it in there is very slim. A bigger problem is a kickback. And a kickback happens when the board that I'm trying to cut starts to come away from the fence. When a board comes away from a fence and there's a kickback, now all bets are off. I have no idea where my hand's gonna end up. And if you look at a lot of the posters or you look at a lot of articles where somebody got cut, it happened during a kickback. Their hand got dragged through the blade as they experienced a kickback. So that is really what we want to avoid having happen. Now, in order to keep a kickback from happening, I have to keep my eyes focused on the fence so that if I notice the stock starting to come away from the fence at all, I can quickly move it back using the push device. Step number 1 is place the board. So the first thing I want to do when making a cut on the table saw is place the board, and I want to place it about 2 inches in front of the guard with the smooth, straight edge of the board tied up against the fence, just like that. Now, what this does is it creates a pocket right here on a table saw where I want to stand. One of the things we want to think about and remember on a table saw is that as I'm cutting, I should never be standing straight behind the board. If there's a kickback, then one of the directions a kickback can go is straight back behind the machine, and if I'm standing here, I'm definitely in the path to get hit by the kickback. So I always want to stand in this little pocket created between the board and the table. Step number 2 is make a fist. So with my left hand, I'm going to make a fist. I'm going to use my knuckles to push sideways towards the fence, and I'm going to use my thumb sticking out to push straight down onto the table. I'm going to place my fist halfway between the guard and the tabletop, or if you don't have a guard, halfway between the blade and the front of the table, right about there. And my knuckles are pushing towards the fence and my thumb is pushing and holding the board straight down. And I'm going to support the board with my left hand like that while I turn the machine on. Step 3. Step 3 is pushing forward. I'm going to use my fingertips and I'm going to hook them onto the back edge of the board, and I'm going to use them to push the board straight ahead. Now, when I do this, I want to be careful not to use my thumb, right? When I am going to push a board forward and I push my thumb down, I have a tendency to lift the front of the board up. I've seen this quite a bit with students. And when I lift the front of the stock up, I am starting to set up a situation where I'm going to have a kickback. So when I put my fingers on here to push straight ahead, I want to use my fingertips only, no thumb. And I'm going to continue pushing straight ahead with my right hand until I reach the table. Now, some people want to stop right here. This is the fence. I don't want to stop here. I'm going to keep pushing. Some people want to stop right here. This is the fence system that holds the ruler. That's not the table. I want to keep pushing. And I push straight ahead until I reach the tabletop itself. This big piece of metal is the tabletop. My hand should now reach the tabletop, and then I can stop pushing forward. That brings me to step 4. So for step 4, I'm going to hold the board tightly with my left hand, and I'm going to release the board with my right hand so that I can carry out step 4. Now, step 4 is 2 things at once, so let me go through what those are. The first thing I want to do is grab the push stick, and I want to use the little hook at the back of the push stick to hook on my stock. And at the same time, the second part of step 4 is to position my feet. So right now, my left foot is forward, my right foot is back. And the reason I do that is because if I'm cutting long stock on a table saw, if I'm ripping long stock on a table saw, I need to stand in this manner in order to push this piece of stock through the table saw. Once I get the board to the table and it's time to finish the cut, I don't really want to finish from this position because now I'm going to have to twist awkwardly, and the chances of me losing balance and falling into the blade are much higher. So once I get to this point where the stock has reached the table, I now need to turn and reposition my right foot forward so that my right shoulder is forward and my right hand, which has the push stick in it, can now finish up the cut pretty easily without me being in a position where I could fall forward. Let's review that. When step 3 comes to an end, I'm going to hold the stock tightly with my left hand, and I'm going to release the stock with my right hand, and then I'm going to do 2 things at once. Step 4, 2 things at once, grab the push stick, hook it on the board, and turn and reposition my feet all at the same time. Step 5, remove the left hand. So I'm now going to begin to push forward again with my push device. And I'm going to push until the stock goes underneath my left hand. When the stock goes underneath or travels underneath my left hand, I'm going to bring my left hand back and put it behind my back. And I'm going to put it behind my back so that I do not have the temptation to stick it out and reach up under the guard. All guards are going to say, never put your fingers under the guard, right? They clearly have had a situation where somebody has gotten their hands cut. So as the stock goes past my left hand, I want to stick my left hand behind my back. And that reminds me, don't use your left hand to reach around up here and try to grab on to loose stock. Get it behind your back and leave it there until the cut is over. Step 6, I now want to use the push device to push the stock past the splitter. Push the stock past the splitter. So now using this push device by itself or the push stick by itself, I'm going to push the stock all the way down past the blade or past the guard or the splitter, whatever you happen to have on your table saw. And I need to remember to get all the way past it before I stop the cut. Now, as I'm pushing the stock past the guard or the splitter, I want to be remembering to focus my attention out here along the fence. And I want to be watching for a gap forming. If a gap begins to form like that, that is the beginning of a kickback. If that board moves too far to the left, it's going to kick back. So as I'm watching, if I notice a gap starting to form, I want to use my push device and manipulate the stock and get it back over to the fence. So I'm going to push it back with the push device to the fence and then continue forward, pushing the stock all the way past the guard or splitter. And I'm pushing forward, but I'm also pushing down through the push stick towards the fence at the same time. When I use a push stick, I typically am putting some twisting action on my wrist to get side or diagonal pressure towards the fence as the same time that I'm pushing forward. Step 7. Step 7 is return the push stick on the right side of the fence. Return the push stick on the right side of the fence. So now that I have the cut complete and the stock is past the blade or the guard or the splitter, I now want to pick the push stick up, move it to the right side of the fence, and bring it back to the front of the saw where I can leave it in its place. And the reason I do that is because quite often we get in the habit of finishing the cut and going like this. The problem is I'm pulling the push stick back into a spinning blade. And it's just a matter of time until I pull the push stick back, it gets caught into the blade and I get hit hard by a kickback using the push stick. So to avoid that, I want to bring the push stick to the right side of the fence and return it to the front, thus avoiding a kickback by hitting the push stick on the rotating blade. And that is the 7 steps. Some pretty simple, basic, easy to perform steps, but doing those steps every time really reduces the problems that you might encounter on a table saw. So I've narrated us now through those 7 steps. We've seen them all separately. Now let's put them all together in real time and watch what they look like when used to push a piece of stock quickly through a table saw blade. So I'll start by placing the stock about 1 inch in front of the guard, smooth edge against the fence. Make a fist with my left hand, my knuckles are pushing towards the fence and my thumb is pushing down. I will turn on the saw. With my fingertips, I'm going to push straight ahead until my board reaches the table. When it reaches the table, I'm going to stop and hold it. I'm going to grab the push device and I'm going to go ahead and continue pushing. When the board goes past my left hand, I'm going to put it behind my back and I'm going to push using the push device all the way past the guard, and then I'll bring the push stick back to the front. Then I can turn it off and come around and fetch my stock. Now as I do this, I want to remember a good rule is never lean over the top of the rotating blade. Lots of people have gotten injured after the whole cut was complete by simply leaning over their blade to get the stock that they just cut. So I want to walk around the table and fish my stock out of there when I'm done with it. Well, let's do one more pass through the 7 steps. I've got you this time at a little bit different angle. And again, we just want to see what all of these 7 steps look like when they're put into one fluid motion to get the board seamlessly through the blade to the other side with the cut taking place. I'm going to scoot my fence over just a little bit. Well, there it is. That's the 7 steps put together into one very quick and simple pass through the table saw blade. And when those 7 steps are used over and over and over and over and over again, repeatedly on our table saw, then it really goes a long way in helping us to remove some of the dangerous practices that we sometimes will use in ripping a board on a table saw. Well, I hope that you have
really gained a lot of confidence in seeing these 7 steps and how you can put them into practice, and have enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you out in the shop as we put this into practice, cutting your project here at the Royal High School Wood Shop.